Hello there, welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Your headlines in the Thames Valley this Wednesday evening. Arrested at Reading Station for an attack with a metal horseshoe. Tonight, a man's found guilty of the murder of Thomas Parker after a row about loud music on a train.
In the next part of our special investigation into long COVID in young people, we visit the few available NHS clinics to find out why children are waiting so long to access care.
You don't fancy that? We could have been friends. We really could. Do it yourself.
And tributes to Paul O'Grady, entertainer, animal lover and long-time friend of our programme, who's died at age 67. Fond memories of visits to his farm.
But it's not the peaceful life you imagine. Olga! 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 Oh, you swine!
Good evening. A man who killed a fellow train passenger at Reading train station has been found guilty of murder. Kirkpatrick Virgo had already admitted manslaughter after hitting Thomas Parker over the head with a metal horseshoe following a row over loud music in July last year.
Our reporter Mark McQuillan has been following the case and joins us from Reading Crown Court. Mark, tell us what happened there this afternoon.
Well, it took the jury less than 4 hours to reach their guilty verdict this afternoon. Their deliberations centred on one night in July last year. It all started with a dispute between two groups of men on a train and ultimately ended in the murder of Thomas Parker. The row started when Mr. Parker's brother Craig told one of Kirkpatrick Virgo's friends to turn the music down on his speaker system. And whilst the initial altercation was stopped by off-duty officers who were on the train at the time, crucially it continued when they got off it at Reading Station, and that is where Thomas Parker was struck by Virgo with a horseshoe that he'd been carrying in his rucksack. The 24-year-old was pronounced dead not long afterwards. This afternoon, British Transport Police has given its reaction to the verdict.
Yeah, I was quite pleased to see that the jury came back remarkably quickly. It was a sickening and cowardly attack, and I'm really pleased that that justice was served in such swift fashion. No one believed Virgo. We believed all along that he was guilty of murder, and I was really pleased to see that the jury return that verdict today.
In relation to this horseshoe, Kirkpatrick Virgo had actually told Reading Crown Court he bought it as a lucky charm and planned to hang it on his door. But the prosecution said this was a ridiculous and unbelievable story. As we know, it was a horseshoe which was used to murder Thomas Parker last year. A murder which 42-year-old Virgo will be sentenced for on Friday.
Mark McQuillan, thank you.
In other news, disruption for rail passengers is continuing into this evening following a trackside fire near Maidenhead. Firefighters were called to the station at 7 a.m. GWR says services between Reading and Paddington will be disrupted until the end of the day. Trains have also been affected on the Elizabeth line. Tickets are being accepted on SWR and on Chiltern.
A retrial has been confirmed for a former GP from Bracknell accused of multiple indecent assaults on female patients in the 1990s. 63-year-old Stephen Cox was found not guilty on one of the counts in a 3-week trial, but the jury was unable to reach majority verdicts on the remaining 7 counts of indecent assault. He denies all the charges. A retrial will take place at Reading Crown Court in September.
People living near a proposed site for a biogas plant near Witney in West Oxfordshire say wildlife would disappear and the countryside would be blighted by lorries and tractors.
No gas plant here! Save our countryside!
The company Acorn Bioenergy says the plant on land north of South Lee and south of the A40 would use agricultural waste to create enough biogas to heat around 7,000 homes. It says it's working with and listening to concerns of the local community. A consultation by West Oxfordshire District Council asking for views closes tomorrow, with a decision likely in May.
The roe deer, the hobbies, the wildlife that thrives here will obviously all disappear overnight. And what's a favourite place for cyclists and walkers will be blighted by an endless stream of HGVs and tractors carrying slurry and all sorts of noxious substances. We also have a neighbourhood plan which includes the field in question, which was set up following a turnout of the whole community, and over 90% voted in favour of the neighbourhood plan, and this rides roughshod across it.
Two mothers from Oxfordshire who lost their 2-year-old son are sharing their story during Brain Tumour Awareness Month. Albie Bayliss-Watts from Didcot was a happy toddler when he was diagnosed with a rare aggressive brain tumour. He passed away 11 months later. His mothers, who recently welcomed twins, have set up a fundraising group which has so far raised more than £32,000.
550 jobs have been created by Thames Water as it brings its customer service call centre back to Swindon from South Africa. As part of the company's 8-year turnaround plan, it says it's brought a range of critical functions in-house. Now you're watching ITV News Meridian. Coming up, Andrew will join us with all the sports.
And bringing his love of dogs to our television screens. Battersea Old Windsor, her filming favourite for Paul O'Grady, pays tribute to him.
Yes, more tributes to come on the programme. Plenty more from us, of course, about all our stories today online. itv.com/Meridian is the address. And ever you can follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram.
Now, all this week we are highlighting the devastating effects long COVID is having on children. Young people who've been left disabled and unable to attend school. Many have struggled to access treatment on the NHS.
Well, the government recognises that long COVID is a problem, setting up 15 paediatric hubs across the country. 4 are in our region, in Oxford, Portsmouth, Southampton and in London. And yet, it seems many children are not receiving the specialist care they need to get better.
Stacey Poole has been speaking to families about the struggles they face and has been asking the long COVID clinics why children are waiting so long for help.
It took us 6 months of fighting to finally get a diagnosis. It was 6 months of phone calls to the GP, trips to A&E, begging them to take me seriously.
There needs to be more treatments available and more thorough investigations.
There are children still 2.5 years on who are still not any better, and it's not good enough.
All of these families have struggled to access the care that they need for their children. Emily and Hannah lost the use of their legs after contracting COVID-19, and Logan suffers crippling headaches. They've lost months of education, and Emily is now registered as disabled, and yet the families are still fighting for treatment.
There's nothing really in place to support and to treat the children. There's clinics being set up, but the waiting lists for them are ridiculously long.
Children just, to me, feel like they've been forgotten or pushed aside to a certain extent.
The NHS are failing a lot of these children.
These stories are not unusual. Sammy McFarland set up the charity Long COVID Kids after her daughter developed the condition. She said thousands of families are struggling.
The experiences that we're hearing about time and time again is that it's difficult to get care, it's difficult to get a referral, it's difficult to be believed.
On top of that, there is very little in the way of treatment, meaning children are left in terrible pain with devastating consequences.
We have a tsunami of disability of varying degrees throughout, more than 70,000 children currently in the UK. I mean, it's a massive problem.
So why aren't these children receiving the care they need? I've travelled to the Evelina Clinic in London to speak to one of the consultants involved, and I asked her if she's surprised by the number of children who are affected.
I don't think I'm surprised given the number of people that were exposed to COVID during the pandemic, and we know that there was likely to be post-viral illnesses that came about after the pandemic.
Are you surprised by how severely children are affected though?
I think we're seeing a similar severity to what we saw with some post-viral illnesses before COVID. But I guess what we're seeing it is a much larger scale. So that's more shocking, is the scale of it rather than the severity of the illness, because we knew it would potentially be severe for a number of cases.
One of the problems that we've heard time and time again is the length of time it takes to get to the long COVID clinic. Children are waiting 6 months, 8 months, over a year on regular occasions. This isn't good enough, is it?
It's not what we would want to be able to provide. I think it's what we have at our disposal at the moment, and what we do is spend a long time with each individual family. So each clinic appointment is 2 hours with a number of professionals. So finding that ability to manage to do that more regularly is hard.
As you know, the Long COVID Kids charity has done a survey of all of their members, and the response is pretty damning. 73% said they did not feel the long COVID clinics met their expectations. 50% have gone private because they felt like they didn't get the care they needed. And 60% of children that were seen by the long COVID clinics had been admitted to A&E. So it shows the desperate situation that these families were in.
Yeah.
What's your response to this survey and the findings?
The numbers are shocking, and obviously there's a disappointment that people don't feel that they're getting their needs met. So I think we would be open to hearing that feedback and to understanding where can we have influence to do that. But I know that what we are not ignoring is the patient group and trying to reach the needs of those young people, but it probably is an indication of how overworked the system is and overworked individuals are.
I mean, it seems to me that there's a tsunami of cases and we just don't have the system to accommodate all of the children that are affected.
Yeah, I guess that is in some way the case, because we knew that so many people were affected by COVID during the pandemic. There would be a large number affected afterwards. But yeah, we don't have all the answers and we don't have them yet. But I remain hopeful that, with collective will and, the bigger numbers of families that are now affected, we might start to get some treatments that can improve things.
But all of the children that we've spoken to have already lost more than a year of their lives, some nearly 3, and they're desperate for things to move more quickly.
It's very hard to know what more can be done at this point, because we don't have there's nothing that we're holding back that could be given.
So you don't have the treatment options is really the bottom line.
We have a treatment model that works with the input of different members of the multidisciplinary team that seems to work for a lot of young people, but it's obviously not working for everyone. And what we don't have at the moment is any indication of an evidence base around other treatments that can be more effective.
And this is the issue. There are currently no clinical trials to find which drug treatments work for children who are more severely affected. And until there are, there is very little hope. Jez Medinger has written a book speaking to experts from around the world. He says the UK needs to act now, before it's too late.
The long COVID clinics can only work off the research base that exists at the moment. And so until we have those research projects commissioned, performed and then published, the long COVID clinics are essentially operating with their hands tied behind their back because they have to practice evidence-based medicine. But yet we don't have the evidence base, which is why the government right now needs to be putting money into these research projects. And that's the level of attention that I think we desperately need. And I can't understand why it's not happening.
It feels really frustrating to have been campaigning and lobbying and working at raising awareness of long COVID and trying to improve the situation for almost the entire past 3 years, and really things haven't changed that much.
So until there is investment to find drug treatments that work, these children face a very uncertain future. Stacey Poole, ITV News.
We approached NHS England for an interview, but our request was declined. In a statement, though, a spokesperson said they have invested £90 million over the past year in services for people with long COVID, and that includes specialist hubs for children. Another £90 million will be invested next year. They also say they have set out a plan to increase capacity, prioritise treatment and provide better information and support for patients.
Well, to discuss that response and the general provision of care for children with long COVID, we're joined by Dr. Benita Kane, who is an NHS respiratory consultant. Dr. Kane, do you think the NHS is doing enough to improve the care for the children we've been featuring this week?
I think the NHS is doing its best given the resources that it's been given, but if you're going to solve a problem, one of the fundamental issues is you have to understand the problem you're trying to solve. And there hasn't been an acknowledgement that long COVID is a multi-system, complex, largely vascular disease that is debilitating tens of thousands of children across the country, and we are stuck in a model where we're giving children rehab and psychological therapies, and the NHS isn't keeping up with the science that's rapidly emerged over the last few years that's really helped us to understand what's causing the condition.
Now, this issue has impacted your family personally. I know your daughter was severely affected by long COVID. Even you couldn't get the care that you needed here, and you went to Germany. What treatment was it that you went to Germany for? Were you able to get the help that you needed?
So a year ago, my daughter, who was then 11, had been housebound for nearly a year with long COVID. She was needing a wheelchair for distance, and it was absolutely devastating to our family. Now, I'm a doctor, I'm a scientist. I just wasn't willing to accept that this level of disability in a previously healthy child was normal, and there was nothing we could do. So I sought to connect with scientists from across the world. I was really lucky enough to go out to Germany, and they were able to look at my daughter's bloods under a microscope, and they could see that she had very sticky blood with clotting abnormalities, and it made sense to me that that sludgy blood clogging up her little capillaries were not able to then give oxygen to the muscles and the tissues that she needed. So she was treated with drug therapy for the abnormalities that were seen, and just slowly over 6 to 8 months she got better. Now, those treatments weren't without some small risk, but to me the risk of doing nothing was far higher at that stage.
And doctor, for all those people who are watching this tonight who are suffering with no answers, what hope is there for them?
We're learning more and more about this disease every single day. There are definitely treatments on the horizon. I have shown through my story that with the right support, with the right diagnostics, and with the right treatment, recovery is possible, and there are many stories of recovery across the world, and we just need to bring that out to everybody else now.
OK, Dr. Benita Kane, we have to leave it there, but thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Just to remind you, there is an extended version of that interview on our website, itv.com/Meridian. And tomorrow we investigate what's causing long COVID and hear from 2 NHS doctors about what they feel needs to happen.
Now, the ITV Evening News continues with the national and international news at 6:30. With more, here's Mary Nightingale.
Coming up in the programme, shock and sadness at the death of television star Paul O'Grady. The Queen Consort led tributes to the star, saying he lit up the lives of so many people. We look back at his fearless campaigning, his rise to stardom, and of course, his love of dogs. Also on the programme, calls to expand the number of children eligible for free school meals. A warning that we are a decade behind in our preparations for climate change, and the King in Berlin. Charles makes his first state visit as monarch. Would you join me for those stories and more at 6:30?
Mary, thank you. Now it's time for the sport with Andrew, and I think you should do this next bit. Go on.
For goodness sake, can we get on with the cricket season? Or worse to that effect.
Yeah, as you know, Matt, just 8 sleeps to go before cricket is back. Today, Sussex had their media day ahead of the new season, and the players have been telling us the fans can expect great things.
Zero Accounting Software sponsors ITV Regional Sports Report.
Bad weather didn't stop play as the Sussex team moved indoors for their annual team photo shoot, and they say the future's looking bright.
It's kind of a new era for the club, new head coach. A lot of our young players have had at least one season of first team cricket under their belts now, so kind of that kind of youngsters tag and excuse kind of hopefully is going to be a thing of the past.
It's my 23rd season in county cricket now, so still as excited as I was the first season. With the new set of players that we got, what I think we can achieve is to get into some sort of finals. We would love to go on and win it, so that's our aim. Our aim's always to win. Just win, day in, day out. Just keep winning.
The Sussex Young Guns believe the Vitality Blast could be their best chance of silverware, with their new coach in confident mood.
There's a lot of talk about the young age profile to our squad, but actually we've got a lot of very talented players here. They're working really hard, they're desperate to do well for this club and winning games and winning trophies. That's what we're here for.
Sussex won the county championship 3 times in the noughties, officially receiving the trophy from His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh. Could the good times be on their way again? In football, Crawley Town are now 5 points clear of the League Two relegation zone, and that was despite falling behind to FA Cup quarter-finalist Grimsby. Crawley was saved with just 3 minutes to go when Tom Fellows was brought down in the area. Captain Dom Telford's penalty just bouncing over the line. This afternoon, the date of Brighton's FA Cup semi-final was announced. 34,000 tickets have gone on sale to Albion fans after it was confirmed the match against Manchester United at Wembley will take place on Sunday, April the 23rd with a 4:30 kickoff. The Seagulls looking for revenge against the Red Devils, the team who beat them in Brighton's only FA Cup final so far. The weather means tonight Speedway is off. The Oxford Cheetahs were due to host the Swindon Robins to launch the new season, but that's been moved back to April the 19th, while Steve Worrell's testimonial in Poole has also been postponed. That meeting is now likely to take place in the summer, so looking forward to sunnier times and lots more sporting fun. Yes.
Andrew, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, you have probably heard the sad news by now about the death of our friend Paul O'Grady at the age of 67. I can't believe I'm reading this. Famous, of course, as an entertainer, performer, passionate animal lover and campaigner. He was also a thoroughly lovely man who would always make time to talk to us here at ITV Meridian. In fact, he was due to come and see me and Matt very soon to talk about playing Miss Hannigan in Annie at the Mayflower in Southampton. That was in a few weeks' time. We're really looking forward to that. But of course, as well as that, he was the star of many programmes.
Well, I'm not normally togged up like this for a day in Battersea. I'm normally in my scruff. But today is a very special day because we're at Clarence House and we're celebrating 160 years of Battersea Dogs and Cats Home. And I had to go on YouTube to learn how to tie a tie because I'd forgotten in lockdown. It's sad, isn't it? Anyway, where's the drink? The apple juice, thank you. I'm on the apple juice. It's too early for hard liquor. I either go 2 ways, fall asleep, or hit the West End and turn up at 5 o'clock in a skip. On best behaviour today.
Well, there have been so many fantastic tributes today from fans, from celebrities, charities that he'd worked with, and even royalty. The Queen Consort Camilla saying she was deeply saddened at the news. Well, earlier we spoke to Stephen Richards, better known as Lola Lasagna from Brighton, who knew Paul really well.
And it's going to be very difficult for anybody who knew him to imagine him not being here now. He was so full of life, and every room he was in, you knew he was there, and a party ensued, basically. His dogs, Buster, Olga, and then the house in Kent, the farm in Kent, the zoo in Kent. He had an owl called Minerva, which always used to make me laugh. Alpacas, pigs, the lot. It was such a different world from Lily Savage, but it was still the same Paul all the way through. That wit, that humour and that twinkle in the eyes every single time.
I mean, a lot of the tributes very similar, aren't they? Just a lovely guy. He was a friend of the programme. You knew him very well.
You don't think that you have to work this out, but I think I knew Paul for about 15 years. And he first made contact because he was an ITV Meridian viewer, and I hadn't been on air for very long. And one of his team got in touch and said he really loves the programme. And I was like, what? And I've written about this for our online piece. And I remember meeting him for the first time and saying, Paul, I couldn't believe it when I heard that you watched the programme that you like me. And he goes to me, I'm not going to do a Birkenhead accent, but you're the draw, darling. But we had, hopefully we see some clips of us filming together. I was invited to, that's Winston the Lamb. I was invited to see his house. And people here know that I'm very nervous around animals, but he's just the most generous man. We were friends on Instagram, and he last sent me a message because I put some stupid post up of me dancing to an ABBA song, singing George Michael, and he said to me, "You look like you're having a ball." Big kiss. Going to miss him so much, yeah.
Always fun. Let's get a check on the weather forecast if we can. With the details for us this evening is James.
Feels like home, whatever the weather. Valent Boilers and Heat Pumps sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
Hi there, good evening. Hopefully tomorrow is set to be a much brighter day, but expect plenty of showers. In fact, this evening we've got quite a few hefty ones pushing through. Eventually they will clear, and whilst there'll be one or two rogue ones left over. Looks as though things are going to brighten up a bit by the end of the night. A few clear spells in there. As far as temperatures go, because of that cloud earlier on, it's not going to be chilly, lows of 9 or 10 Celsius. Tomorrow, much brighter from the word go. It won't necessarily be wall-to-wall sunshine, but as we get the sunshine getting going on what is quite damp ground, expect to see quite a few showers developing, one or two sharp ones, particularly in a line across really the M4 corridor. If you're lucky further south towards the coast, it might actually be quite dry. If you can stay in the sunshine and out of the breeze, 15 or 16 Celsius if you're really lucky is going to feel very nice indeed. But I'm afraid to say things set to head downhill Thursday night into Friday. This system here creeping along the south coast set to bring some very heavy rain and some pretty strong winds, and because of where we think this low is going to be positioned, it's set to give us quite a long spell of wet weather. In spite of that, it is going to be a mild one. The problem is that this system may well be lingering into Saturday too. Hopefully some brighter spells of weather out towards the west with highs of 14 Celsius. And fingers crossed we could get even warmer on Sunday. Have a good evening.
Valent sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
And that is it from us. I was just thinking about that line in that clip of Paul O'Grady. We said you'll either find us in the West End or in a skip, but neither of those things are true for us tonight. But that is it for this evening. In a moment, the ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale tonight.
And there'll be more tributes to Paul there. I'll have your late news just after 10:30. From all of us here, thank you for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.